Hey guys, welcome to the Mississippi 4.
1-1.
And we're sitting here in my trailer. Sorry, we didn't do any place exotic this week. We were going to try to not do the same place twice. And we did our first video right here.
Right.
And I guess we're slacking. We got to get our video done. We're hungry. Let's go back to the... So we're sitting here in the fairgrounds at the Camper Caucus.
Palatial Estates.
Yes. Living at large in our travel trailers.
Right.
While we do the people's business. But we want to go straight into
some of the stuff
we did last week. Thanks to all the folks that subscribed this past week.
You know who you are.
You know who you are.
Right.
Tell all your friends about it. Please pass this around. We want Mississippi to be informed, and one of the best ways we can do it is through this video medium. And so we're going to tell you about last week.
Share this video.
Please do. We have dealt with a lot of bond bills, a lot of resolutions, a lot of appropriation stuff. Some of the Senate bills have finally started being assigned out to committee, so we're having committee meetings started last week to review those, and some of them even, I think, have come to the floor. But we want to talk about a couple noteworthy ones. Nothing really huge stood out, nothing really super controversial last week, but a few that we thought were noteworthy you'd like to know about. So, Steve, I got one on, and then we'll pass it over you. There's one, and this one in particular, I'm looking through my notes here, if I can find it. Why don't you tell them about yours, Steve?
Okay, I'm ready. We had a bill, House Bill 1598, which basically gives a tax credit for processors of deer meat, venison. And this is a really good program because Mississippi has a program called Hunters Harvest, where hunters can donate the deer, the kill, to a processor, and then they in turn process the meat, and the meat is donated through the Hunters Harvest program to less fortunate families. It's a really good program for those in need, and if you want to find out more, you can go to mswildlife.org. Hunters, if you're interested, or if you're processors and you're interested, go there. You can find out more information. It's a really good program.
We got good deer here in Mississippi too, and deer meat's good for you.
I concur.
Yeah, no antibiotics. They're grass fed.
Free range
deer. I found it, the one that I was wanting to point out, House Bill 1583. This one has to do with your homestead exemption. So if you're a homeowner in the state, you already know what that is. It's a reduction in your income or your property tax for your residents. It's a great thing. When you retire, some of you may not know this, but when you retire and turn 65, you get a further reduction. Well, what this particular bill will do, House Bill 1583, is it will lock in your home value when you retire. So as long as you are the owner of that property and the primary dweller in that property, instead of your property being reassessed and valued up every year as it appreciates, it will lock in that price. So if you're on a fixed income, it's going to be great for our retirees. It's going to be great to attract retirees to our state. We're already a good state to live in.
Friendliest state in the country.
Friendliest people in the country. And believe it or not, we have some of the lowest taxes, and you get the most bang for your buck.
That's right. Some of you were asking questions about local and private, and the committee local and private, and how that works and stuff. So Dan and I wanted to talk about that real quickly without getting off into the weeds, and just kind of explain how some of this works.
Well, and what we'll do is we're probably going to use an issue that's going on back home in our local area as an example as to why we take the stance we take, and that is our restaurant tax in South Haven. Basically, that tax was voted on the people by basically 600 yes votes. So you had a little over 1%.
Well, to back up, there were 2 votes, and you hear this a lot. The first vote was declared invalid because it didn't get the approval of the state legislature. That has to happen now before you can have a vote. So they had to come to the legislature, get approval, and go back and have another vote. So really, that first vote
didn't count.
Yeah, it didn't count.
And here's the thing about it: most of these type taxes are passed in what's called a special election. That's an election that does not occur when everybody generally has an election. So like you have a general municipal election coming up this year. You'll
Very
have
costly, and it's
very
very,
costly.
very costly.
You have general state and general federal. That's when everybody's going to the polls to vote. So a special election can occur any day, any time outside of the normal election cycle, and it is, like you
And,
said, very costly to the
and
taxpayers.
it's not very well publicized at all.
That's the other stipulation to have one of these taxes. What they do is they have to send out notice 3 weeks before, and so you might get a note in your water bill. You might read something in the paper if you subscribe to the
A
paper.
piece of paper this big.
And so the vast majority of folks don't even know when one of these kind of votes go down. So
Right.
Steve and I both support making it to where these type initiatives, these referendums, have to take place in a general election when everybody's already going to the polls.
And there's no added expense because the general election is going to take place anyway. And that's a stance we take because we fight for the taxpayers of Mississippi.
Right.
Special elections are, like we said, costly, but they're not well publicized. You have a very small percentage of people that vote, and we want everybody's voice to be heard.
Well, and it's important to point out that once one of these taxes get passed, okay, the way it starts is the mayor and the aldermen will vote. They'll solicit the legislature to give them approval to have one of these referendums. Once it's passed, there's usually what's called a repealer that's attached to it. And what that does is it means the tax will eventually go away, or that at least come back to you
for review.
For
It'll
review.
come back for review.
And so when you have an issue like this that takes place in a special election, and you have 1% or a little over 1% of the people, so 600 to a town of what, 55,000, 50,000 folks,
Third largest city in South Africa.
vote a tax on
The
the
state.
rest of the folks. We just believe it's good policy for people to have a say in.
Right.
This particular tax has already been kicked down the road, and what happens is when it comes up for the repealer, your municipal leaders will petition the legislature to extend it. And so there are taxes in this state that have been extended and extended and extended, and the people forget all about them. They forget they're paying them. They aren't even included in the decision making. And so we feel like it's somewhat disingenuous to circumvent the very people that elected us to look out for them by just kicking the can down the road again. So we aren't against the tax per se. If the general population want the tax and they like how it's being spent, then by all means let's continue it on. But to circumvent you, the voter, or anybody else indefinitely, it's not constitutional. Number one,
It's not right.
So that's the stance we take on a lot of these type.
And in
taxes.
2015, when you guys voted us in, and I know Dan will say the same thing. So some of the main things we heard was you were tired of being ignored. You wanted your voice heard, and you wanted your voice represented. Well, that's what we're doing. We're taking a stand for both sides of the issue. Some people want the restaurant tax. Some people don't. Well, the best way to solve this is to have an election, in a general election.
Yep.
In a normal year, where the populace, not just South Haven, any other municipality, can make that decision.
And if it's a great thing, guess what? It's going to continue because people are going to see the benefit of what it's created, and they will vote to extend it and continue it on. So what we will do, a lot of times we vote for a lot of local and privates. That's whenever board of supervisors or municipal leaders want something like approval to donate sums of money to different organizations, or to maybe do some infrastructure repairs that are major and they have to issue bonds for it, or they want to stick taxes on you, the citizen of Mississippi, they come before the legislature. So it's our job to kind of look out for you. And
Right.
so that's what we are attempting to do. And so when we see one of these particular type taxes that have gone on for a while and you haven't had a say in the matter, then we're always going to vote in favor of giving you a voice, giving you back your voice. And so we will vote no on some of these. It's not that we're against the tax or the city or the people in that city. We just believe in principle that it should come back to.
Well, and you hit on something, Dan, too, because giving money to charities, is it right? Are you okay with, say, the Board of Supervisors in some county asking that they be allowed to give 40, yeah,
$130,000 to United Way. That
to
was one that came up
United
last week.
Way of your money? I call it forced giving. You
Yeah.
know, taking your money because making you give to charities. Uh,
Well,
I
and some people might be opposed to that because
Yeah,
United Way gives money to Planned Parenthood. I'm
right,
opposed to that.
right.
That alone would make me want to vote against it. So, you as a resident, you need to be engaged in your local politics as well. Hold your supervisors and your mayors and aldermen
Well, and Dan
accountable.
and I both believe too that you know how to spend your money better than anybody else, and that's what we will fight for as long as we're down here.
That's right. Last thing, and we're going to wrap this thing up. Um, so, just that was just to give you an idea, kind of
Two
our
things real quick, Dan. We almost forgot. I want to explain real quick: direct
right.
referendum
That's what I
and
was going to bring
reverse
up.
referendum. A reverse referendum basically is something that's being put in this bill that we're talking about, and it says that the locality, the municipality, that if you're opposed to this tax, you have to get 1,500 signatures within 60 days, or this tax becomes permanent.
And when you vote, it's supposed to be anonymous,
Right.
right? They don't make you put your name on your ballot. But this would force you to put your name and all your information on a sheet, would put the burden on the taxpayer to have to go and solicit the right to have it back on a referendum. And we just feel that's, and in the case of our restaurant tax in, say, South Haven, you had 600 plus people vote yes to instill this tax, but you have to get 1,500 signatures to have a
Yeah.
say. We have a problem with it.
We're more in favor of the direct referendum,
At a general election.
which calls for a vote of the people, and we support it in a general election, not a special election that a lot of people don't find out about.
So that's the kind of stuff we look out for in local and private. A lot of it's good stuff, but when it comes down to taxation issues, we tend to step up and take a pretty solid stance on that. So,
Right.
God bless you. We hope you'll come back and
Thanks,
see us next
everybody.
week. Keep sending us those questions, and we hope that kind of answered sort of what local and private does. It's just a means by which the local and private authorities can take and solicit the legislature for approval to continue
Spend
on,
your money.
to spend your money.